Hi, and welcome to GerrisCast Episode 3 on the topic of online reputation management. My name is Chris Abraham, and I am partners at Gerris Corp with Dan Kruger. Hello,
Hello.
Dan.
Hey, how are you?
I'm great. Where are you today?
I am in upper northeast Pennsylvania. I'm just on my computer right now. And
It's
go ahead.
the weather's been amazing. I'm sure you've really benefited from it.
Absolutely. It's not as hot up here as it is where you are in DC, but it's definitely been beautiful. So
Well, luckily we haven't had to deal with any humidity, so that's good.
nice. So today's podcast, we're going to be discussing online reputation management, or ORM. I know, Chris, you've been doing ORM for many, many years. Why don't you tell us exactly what online reputation management is?
Thank you. I've been doing it since 2003 when an agency I was with called New Media Strategies developed it. And it's very, I mean, there's a lot of new amazing tools, but it's very similar. It can definitely be seen as being related to the early tools and strategies that we've been using for the last 15 years.
So what
Uh,
like just to step back a little bit, why would someone want to use online reputation management, or what is it exactly?
Well, what it is it's a form of creating perception management on search results on Google, Bing, and other search engines. So, in other words, if you search for Chris Abraham and it comes up, Chris Abraham is a jerk as number one search result on Google, that might cut into your success as a small business person, or as a big business person, or as anyone really. So, what online reputation management is a service and a strategy for trying to gain as much control of the first two or three pages, or even just the first page of search engine results.
So
It's
what Yeah, so I try to I've explained this to people as well, so that in like a real world example, for maybe a lawyer or a doctor has something negative posted about them, or an article comes out that when you would search for that person's name, the first thing that would pop up would be that article, because news sort of garners that top page initially, because they have so hundreds of thousands to millions of readers, so anything they post would then come up first in search engine results. And what I explain to people is that what we do, or what online reputation management is basically we're trying to neutralize that. We're posting on behalf of that person or that client, neutral or positive things about them to sort of push down the negative. Would you say that's correct?
Yeah, and since I was just thinking about this morning, nothing pushed down. It's a convenient way of thinking it, but I decided to use the word bubbling up today because that seems to be what happens. The positive and neutral is very important to include all conversations, because very rarely can you get 2 pages of glowing testimonials, and I don't even think that would be good. But yeah, that's exactly what it is, Dan.
So what would be something neutral? Like if you and this is I'm just basically just wrapping with you here, but I would say neutral would be like social media profile or
No, even
blog.
different than that. There's a director up in Toronto by the name of Chris Abraham, and in no way, if I were to do a search engine optimization campaign, in no way would I be in any way trying to promote him. But if I'm trying to get neutral results to dominate the first 2 pages instead of Chris is a jerk, Chris Abraham is a jerk, I'm even going to want to pad or bubble up content that has to do with people who have my name but aren't me.
Right. No, that makes complete sense. So in a real world example, for a client that will not be named that we worked for, because that's another thing, is privacy issues with ORM. That's something you don't really want anyone to know that you're doing this as that particular client. But we did do something that had that was related to something political last year, and there happened to be someone with the same name as this person, who was an actor back in the day. So what we were able to do was sort of bubble up that actor's name by sort of reintroducing that actor online, using all sorts of different profiles, blogs, and other websites using that actor's name. So the more that name is bubbled up, then the more the negative things about that person with the same name could be sort of flushed down a little bit.
Exactly. And if you look Chris Abraham up in Google, you'll notice that almost all of the first and second pages are shared by me, the director in Toronto, and a guy who sells tires, and a computer programmer. So I feel perfectly comfortable in that environment. But I think that in a lot of cases, what is the biggest problem for most of our clients is that most of our clients don't even have enough online resources to, on their very own, just by themselves, be able to populate the, by default, when you search on Google or Bing, if you don't know this, by default, it renders 10 search results per page. You can set it up to whatever you want, up to 100, but by default, it's 10. So let's say 2 pages or 20 results. If you are everywhere on Medium, on Instagram, on Twitter, and all these other places, you can very quickly dominate the first 10 results of Google. It's when and we recommend everybody do that as a way of armoring their online reputation. However, when something drops, like news story or a negative attack, or, if you will, an association, or even a legal accusation, or even an arrest, or something like that, the energy automatically goes to that content, no matter how well armed you are. So online reputation management is a way of addressing that. And there's 3 stages of online reputation management, and each one is many orders of magnitude more expensive or cheaper than the other. The first one is armoring for defense. Nobody ever takes us up to do this for them, but it's equivalent of doing what I was just saying, which is making sure that you have blogs, you have foundations, you have yourself mentioned in the news, you have all your social media accounts covered, you publish blogs, you are on Tumblr and Medium, you have an account on WordPress and Blogger.
Whether
The second one,
now would it be active? Does it have to be active, or are these, you just own these properties so that you're ready to go if something does happen?
well, it doesn't help to fill the vacuum, at least with profile information. Like what I could say is I'm willing to put things into archive if you go into your YouTube channel, all the different things you can get, and you optimize the descriptions and bios and links and so forth, right? So you can't just create there's actually this amazing service that costs about $400, and you get like 900 social media accounts registered for you, and then mostly populated with a photo and profile and description information. And I would say that that's the least you should do. Not just go ahead and grab the page and leave it alone, but make sure it at least looks and feels and smells like you. The second one is crisis. That's the one that we did last year, Dan. That's I call it rebuilding. I call it fixing drywall in the middle of a rocket attack. And you know, a lot of people come to you during the crisis management uh, part of a campaign, saying literally the sky's falling. And my analogy is, it's much easier to clean up a neighborhood that has been bombed than it is to try to make sure your neighborhood stays unbombed during a rocket attack.
Or
It's amazingly,
rebuild during the attack. Yeah, it's I know exactly
or
what you're
yeah,
saying.
rebuild during the attack.
Yeah, you sort of have to.
Um,
We can start like you're saying, like we can start populating and start bringing things in while it's happening, but it's still not going to it's still not going to dilute if you're in the middle of that attack.
yeah, you're still going to have to live through it. And then the final one, the one that's I think still expensive but most affordable, is after crime cleanup. Um, and I'm not saying, I'm not being judgmental in terms of a crime, but I'm just sort of picturing myself in a hazmat suit with a big brush, a bucket, and a bottle of bleach, and trying to find ways of cleaning up crime scene, like in a law. You never get to see the scene after Law and Order. We're those guys in terms of search results, and it's much better, and you get much better results after the storm is over, and we can go in, after the flood, and after the flood is abated, or even during the end of a flood after it's raining, drain the water and start dealing with it before it develops any, allegorical, metaphorical black mold. Um, I mean, the well, we would prefer to help people armor their brand, um, but nobody does that. The only people in the entire world that do anything like that are buildings in San Francisco. Now that there was a giant earthquake back in the last century, and that's only because the government mandates it. So, other than that, people wait for things to break before they fix them. Isn't that your experience, Dan?
100%, 100%.
Ask me another question. I don't know. I want to stay on task.
No, this is good. This is good. So, how would you say that ORM would relate to SEO?
Well, um, well, in an analogy, when you do an SEO campaign, you have control of your site. You have control of all your associated sites, like your LinkedIn, your Facebook pages, your Twitters, and so forth. You have access, and I'm talking about back-end administrative root access to your blog and to your website and everything like that. And so you can optimize strategically using technological strategies, hacks, techniques, and so forth to optimize for organic search result success. And then you only have one of those. You really are only trying to get one or two properties to the top of search, or at least to the first page. Now that's organic search engine optimization. Online reputation management, on the other hand, is at least 10 times, 20 times that of a regular SEO engagement, and that's basically because what you're trying to do is promote all at least 19 or 18 or 17, depending on how many negative results you have. Your attempt is to promote at least 19 other positive and neutral search results and sites, most of which you do not have any root access to. In other words, while one of those 19 sites that you're promoting, in order to bubble up and to allow the negative stuff to go down, while you might have access to the back end so that you can install a helpful plugin like Yoast, or optimize for page speed, or optimize for search engine keywords, or connect to Bing Webmaster Tools or Google Webmaster Tools or Google Analytics, um, you don't have any ability to optimize any of the sites that you're promoting that aren't yours. So you're basically doing a huge SEO campaign where you're pretty much, you have your hands tied behind your back. Um, And so that's the difference. It's at least 10x more complicated, and it's sort of the equivalent of if all 10 of or 20 of your SEO clients, we do SEO services as well. If none of them ever gave you access or administrative rights to any of their websites or their blogs or their social media sites, it makes it really difficult to optimize what they need without really working with them in partnership.
So, who would you say would be like an ideal client for an ORM campaign, for an online reputation management campaign? Or
well, my perfect client is a whale, right? Everybody wants a whale. Everybody wants a. When I worked at Reputation.com, everybody wanted a high net worth individual, right? Um, it's easier to promote an individual person. There's fewer keywords. You just have variations of their name. It's only one person. You're not trying to cover an entire brand. You're just trying to cover one person. If the theoretically speaking, it's much easier to defend the president than it is to defend the White House. I mean, you would think, right? I mean, I've seen all those movies. And so finding a high net worth individual who realizes that possibly the stock associated with their company or their own personal wealth or their ability to generate income can be directly affected by their negative search results on Google, those people open up their wallets. And at Reputation, with those high net worth individuals, they would pay upwards of $20,000 to $30,000 a month, 6 months paid in advance, and in a bank check that would be delivered by courier before anybody lifted a pencil. So, but I'm not trying to scare all y'all away. Like if you're here looking for help, we like Dan was saying, our meat and potatoes are not this sexy Politico intrigue guy of last year. Our bread and butter, our meat and potatoes. Actually, those are things that Dan can't eat, and
no, I
I
do.
shouldn't, and neither should I, and neither should I. Um, but they're like Dan said 10 minutes ago before I started ranting, doctors, lawyers, anybody whose practice is extremely vulnerable to negative search results, professional services, right? I mean, we can help global brands, but I mean, I think we're much more effective when you understand the value of what we're offering, and we understand how we can. And another great thing about like regional, local, city, and town lawyers, corner doctors, corner practices, and so forth, is that except in the most like limited cases, exposure is pretty local. You're not generally going to have to suffer from you're not generally going to have to suffer from New York Times mentions or Wall Street. The guy we had last time, oy vey, like we had some big we had some of those Jersey black flies buzzing around us that bite, Dan. Um,
They did.
but yeah, so there's no. I mean, we can tailor anything. I even think we have limited success. I mean, we have partners to help us with things like reviews. Reviews are hard. Reviews are obviously weighted strongly in favor of Google search results because Google makes money on those. Um, but there are strategies to engage both autocomplete search results as well as I'm not going to name them because if you name them, apparently they come after you. But like the most famous review sites that are often the gadfly or the fly in the ointment of search engine results and so forth. So I got a little off topic, but you know what I mean.
No, yeah, yeah. No,
And it
exactly.
comes down to how many keywords there are. Like even a simple thing, like if you're asking me to do an ORM for all the practicing doctors in your practice or all the lawyers in your practice, that's not going to be one umbrella thing. Like that, it really comes down to how many keywords, and each keyword, and a keyword for your information can be phrases like Chris Abraham sucks. We consider it to be a keyword. That's short for keyword phrase. Um, but So it depends. Like if it's just you, and then we can move on to the next person, or if it's the entire office, that sort of thing.
So, what would you say would be the timeline for an ORM campaign? I guess it would be really uh, campaign specific for a particular client, but in general, what would you say would be a timeline?
Well, the biggest problem is that immediately after we start, within a couple of weeks, there tends to be a big bump of success, and that leads people into a false sense of security that the campaign isn't going to take 12 months. Really, um, like someone who's got AFib, who has heart problems. Sometimes their heart will be in a natural sinus rhythm of ba bump ba bump ba bump, and sometimes it'll be all over the place. Like within the first 3 months of a campaign, sometimes we'll be winning, sometimes we'll have setbacks. It takes a while for Google to trust, and Bing is much easier. Remember, Dan? Like it's just so much easier to communicate with Bing.
It is, but
Um,
the problem is no one uses Bing. So,
Nobody cares. Yeah, yeah. So 3 month minimum, but that's only till things get started. That's the 3 months it takes for your anti-arrhythmia medicine to start taking over rhythm of your heart. And it's not like a pacemaker. You can't just put it in and you're back to normal. It'll take at least 12 months to really be um, locked in. It's the minimum amount of time necessary to create lasting change in the search results. However, you're going to see some changes within 3 months. I know that's the longest 90 days ever. And you're going to see a lot of positive changes within 6 months. But you need to treat, I hate to say it, what are you supposed to do with antibiotics, Dan? What does the doctor tell you never to do?
never take them all at once.
Well, no, the doctor says make sure you do your entire script. Make sure you take your entire packet,
Right.
right? Like
Over the
awful
course,
things can
over the
happen.
course, yeah, over the course of time that is prescribed. You don't want to take every antibiotic at the very beginning, and you don't want to stop midway through because
Both things can be very dangerous for your health, and
exactly.
very dangerous for your reputation. If you cancel within 6 months or 3 months, for example, if a client cancels within 6 months and there isn't a friendly passover or handover where they go ahead and receive the entire campaign and maintain it on their own, that leaving at 3 months or 6 months, or even the hostile canceling of a campaign, means that we're going to shut all of our devices down, and that can result in a very extreme and terrible vacuum, a vacuum worse than the vacuum that probably existed before the campaign started. So it's really important, and we tell every client in advance that slow and steady wins the race. Like we're putting a lot of energy into this, mostly front loaded, right? Most of our expense, Dan, happens in the first month. We need
So
to
explain
make a lot of purchases.
maybe you want to explain what the expense really is. So what are you doing to do this? What costs money?
Well, I mean, what costs money is first of all we do a comprehensive purchase of all domain names that in any way uh, cover your name or brand or the keywords that we have associated with you, and that can even include Chris Abraham, director in Toronto, Chris Abraham, Tire King, and Chris Abraham, academic coder. Like we will go all over the board to dominate all domains. We'll also dominate social. We'll dominate free blogging and sharing platforms. We will dominate. We will create any number of sites. Um, Last campaign we had almost 40 bespoke sites that were in support of the campaign, and
Those were
that didn't
paid.
even
Those were
include
paid
any of the
sites. Weren't those were paid sites, right? And then the additional that didn't even include the social and the
yeah,
free.
close to 30 social stuff exactly. Um,
Right. So you're
and then
building.
and then
So
And
what costs money is the time and the strategy and the investment involved in the front loading of building these sites. And then I guess after, it's the time of populating these sites every day. See, that's, I think that's the key as well, is the time involved in every single day, either submitting to these search engines, these sites, so that they're constantly being brought at least into the search engine's frontal mind. I know there's lots of different algorithms that the search engines use to see what's legit and what's not. But if you're also submitting and doing new content on a daily basis, or twice a day, or every day, and then also it's interlinking between all of these sites to make them.
exactly right. I was going to interject about the interlinking, and that's very important too. It's important that the linking strategy is extremely important as well, and all this. It's like it's it's the equivalent of hiring an entire team of social media managers, right? All that, and content managers. You need to create this content, you need to link it, you need to optimize in an SEO like way. I mean, even if you just hire garden variety writers, they might, off of Fiverr or Upwork, they might not have the technical merit to understand how everything stitches together, right? We're building a quilt, right, Dan?
No, that's exactly right. Yeah, I mean, they can, you can hire someone to write an article, but if it's not linked properly, then, which is where we come in, and that's the time, and that's the time involved in it. It's hours and hours of work every day to come up with fresh content for every single site, and neutralize the negative results with neutral and positive information.
And let me let you know that Google and Bing and everybody else has their eyeballs out for this. I mean, I think I read something like globally, Google has 75,000 auditors. Or 7,500? Some crazy number. Um, how many auditors does Google employ? Because they're not willing to allow. It's looking for online. I should just. They're looking. They have they have algorithms to look for things that are copy and paste, and like there's an entire world of black hat SEO people who are creating entire bot worlds of fake content, and Google's got an eyeball for that. And so if you're a cheap SEO guy who's using botnets and all these other things, there's a lack of, like, every single one of these properties that we create have to look like they were designed, created, and supported by someone who had the exact level of financial, creative commitment to doing something like this. So if a corner lawyer does it, if it's supposed to have been done by a corner lawyer, it can be a little bit amateurish. But if it's being done by a a whale, there has to be a certain level of fit and finish. Like there's an amazing level that you have to pass. Not just you need to. None of your content needs to be red flag. None of it needs to bring attention to itself. And in a perfect world, Dan, none of our content would be in the top 2 pages of Google. Our content would be feeding all the natural, neutral, and positive content that would be going to the top of Google anyway. Um, During crisis management gigs like the one last year, um, that didn't happen. Our stuff bubbled to the top because there really wasn't any. There really wasn't a lot of new stuff about this particular person. But in general, with old stagnant stuff, our job is also to revitalize stagnant content, link to stagnant content, link to positive and neutral content that isn't as exciting. My slogan is Google will eat anything, but he prefers, or she prefers, fresh hot donuts. And so if you can create fresh hot donuts, Google's happy. And by fresh hot donuts, I mean everyday content.
No, exactly. This is good. This is good.
I really
I think we're coming to the end of today's podcast, but I think what we should do is do sort of a part two next week, and we can have a guest on.
Yeah. Oh, let's bring Juan in.
Exactly.
One singular sensation, every move that he makes. Okay,
one of the people that we work with, who can also give a different perspective than maybe Chris and I on online reputation management and reputation defense, is Juan Vides, and we'll have him on next week.
Excellent. I was going to go into do-it-yourself ORM, but I think we've kind of probably spent a lot of time on this. So thank you, Dan.
And thank you.
My name's Chris Abraham. That's Dan Kruger. We're partners at GerrisCorp. We're a digital agency. You can reach us at GerrisCorp.com. Otherwise, you can reach us at GERR.is. This podcast lives at GERR.is/podcast, GerrisCorp.com/podcast. And you can also reach us on Twitter at GerrisCorp. And you can reach us on on Facebook at facebook.com/GERR.is. We also have a YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Gerris, GERRIS. And there you will find another way of watching or listening to these podcasts, which I create in a YouTube watchable way. No video, neither of our pretty faces, but you get to look at the album art for however long this recording is, which and we appreciate you. This is episode 3, Online Reputation Management. Part 1, apparently. Part 2 is next week, and we will be Dan and I will be interviewing our ORM partner, Juan Vides, and we're looking forward to that. And thank you again, Dan, and have a great rest of the week.
You got it. Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Have a great day, guys. Bye-bye.
You too.